For this one moment, know that you are loved, that you are safe and whole and loved. Know that you belong here among us, here upon this earth, in your body, however tired or broken your heart may be, whatever fear, disappointment, anger you carry. For this hour, know that you are not alone. Feel the presence of others surrounding you, breathing beside you and with you, discovering together the way our voices rise and fall in harmony, in hope. Claim here a resilient freedom, the choice for love, for light, to live with joy and gratitude and praise as a form of resistance. The soul singers are going to lead us in a song of the soul. If they want to come forward, and should we all rise if we're embody your spirit? Rise, embody your spirit, please. And the words that you will need to sing are right there in your order of service.
Sing out. This is an honor of Polly Lynn. So please sing out for her. Oh, no, she died on Friday night.
I was going to share that later on, but yeah, we lost Polly Lynn, a beloved member, yesterday. So Elaine would like us to sing out in honor of Polly Lynn.
She would have loved singing this. This is her kind of
Open my eyes and look at me.
And if you would remain standing, if you are standing, and body or spirit, for the chalice lighting and the doxology, would our chalice lighters come forward, please, and lead us in reading responsibly with the congregation the words.
Let this flame be a symbol of the wholeness we seek.
Its brightness dispelling gloom, lighting a path to faith and hope.
Its radiance calling us to cast the light of freedom, justice, and peace upon all the world.
Its glory. Please be seated. Good morning and welcome. I am the Reverend Susan Milner. My pronouns are she and her, and it is my honor to serve as the interim minister to this historic and vital congregation. We acknowledge gratefully the Patuxet Wampanoag people on whose ancestral lands we gather today. We commit to support and honor their history, their culture, and them as a people. We welcome you all, members and friends, newcomers, visitors, those of you here in this room together, and those of you online joining us virtually. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, whatever your age, orientation, or just about anything else about you, you are welcome here and valued here in this congregation, and we hope you feel like you belong, at least for this hour. Everyone's invited to coffee hour following the service, and that's in the assembly hall through this door, through the parlor, and down there. If you're visiting, and if you take a red mug, we will be able to know that you're new to us and seek you out to say a word of welcome. One announcement is that after the service today, beginning at 11:30, is that right, Joy? Where's Joy? 11:30, we'll be holding a session of the new you, which I will be leading along with people from the membership committee. This is just a chance to find out more about the church if you're new, to find out more about Unitarian Universalism, to find out about membership if you're at the point that you're thinking about that, but really just to have some good conversation about what it is that we do here. On a silly personal note, I left my home in Maine this weekend I forgot my glasses that I depend on all the time. So my choices this morning are either to wear my prescription sunglasses, but I thought that might be a bit shady. Or some that I can't really see you out of because they're from before my cataract surgery, but I can read with, and they might fall off my face at any moment, but it doesn't matter. If they do, I'll just say something. Anyway, many imperfections in our days. Can somebody start us on singing the children out so they can go downstairs and have their chapel and their program? Our first reading today is titled Marginal Wisdom, and it's by Leslie Takahashi, a colleague whose writings I think I use with some frequency in worship. They teach us to read in black and white. Truth is this, the rest is false. You are whole or broken. Who you love is acceptable or not. Life tells its truth in many hues. We are taught to think in either or, to believe the teachings of Jesus or Buddha, to believe in human potential or a power beyond a single will. I am broken or I am powerful. Life embraces multiple truths, speaks of both and of and. We are taught to see in absolutes, good versus evil, male versus female, old versus young, gay versus straight. Let us see the fractions, the spectrums, the margins. Let us open our hearts to the complexity of our worlds. Let us make our lives sanctuaries to nurture our many identities. The day is coming when all will know that the rainbow world is more gorgeous than the monochrome, that a river of identities can ebb and flow over the static, stubborn rocks in its course, that the margins hold the center. And before we join in a spirit of prayer and meditation, intention and attention, I did want to share that longtime and beloved member Polly Landman passed from this world yesterday morning at 8 o'clock after having a rough week. Her daughter Sandy said that she died very peacefully, for which everyone can be grateful. And they intend to hold a service of memory here at First Parish Church later in the spring when the whole family, which is spread out across the country, can come together. So let us join into a spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and love. There are so many to remember and hold in our hearts today. Our beloved Polly and her family, others here who have lost someone or who are struggling. We remember those who this week lost their lives in fiery crashes, and we hold in light those who grieve and mourn them. We remember those recently lost in wildfires and hold those looking for a way to reweave their lives. We hold in love those who have been disparaged, cast aside, told to move outside the circle of freedom. O Spirit of life, bathe us all in love so that with care and commitment, we can find the healing and the wholeness when we most need it. Inspire us to make a difference, to draw from the well of kindness and understanding that we might keep traveling on the journey to mercy and justice. Now I invite you to add your quiet hopes and prayers in a moment of sacred silence. May our hopes and dreams take flight on the wings of love. Amen. Blessed be. There are so many people, not just in the world, but in our country right now, who are suffering. And we all are called to be as generous as we can in supporting those who care and who help and who try to raise people up. So I always want to applaud you and encourage you in that generosity. It's also, we're coming up on the time of the year when we need to make sure that our pledges come in and that our year ends in a good situation when we get to the summer. And so we appreciate your pledges and your donations to First Parish Church. To all of them ultimately go to support this congregation's existing and doing the ministries that are so needed in this community. So please, this morning, give as generously as you can. The morning offering will now be gratefully accepted. Our second reading today is by poet Jan Richardson, whom I know a lot of her works are used by you colleagues. This is called A Blessing Called Sanctuary. You hardly knew how hungry you were to be gathered in, to receive the welcome that invited you to enter entirely. Nothing of you found foreign or strange, nothing of your life that you were asked to leave behind or to carry in silence or in shame. Tentative steps became settling in, leaning into the blessing that enfolded you, taking your place in the circle that stunned you with its unimagined grace. You begin to breathe again, to move without fear, to speak with abandon the words you carried in your bones that echoed in your being. You learn to sing. But the deal with this blessing is that it will not leave you alone, will not let you linger in safety, in stasis. The time will come when this blessing will ask you to leave, not because it is tired of you, but because it desires for you to become the sanctuary that you have found, to speak your word into the world, to tell what you have heard with your own ears, seen with your own eyes, known in your own heart, that you are beloved, precious, child of God, beautiful to behold, and you are welcome and more than welcome here. Every time that I welcome you to worship here at First Parish Church, I say, we are glad that you are here. Speaking for myself, I am truly glad in part, let's face it, because every minister is relieved to see people in the pews. But it goes much deeper than that. The purpose of this religious community depends on the fact that you are, that you exist and bring your gifts and your beauty and your possibility to the world and to this time and place, that people find meaning and grace in making their way through life together. It's why we come here. However inadequate our efforts to welcome might sometimes be, and I know they can be, our aim is, in Jan Richardson's words, to invite you to enter entirely. Nothing of you found foreign or strange, nothing of your life that you were asked to leave behind or to carry in silence or in shame. All of you. And it is our purpose, I hope our joyful purpose, to create a community where each of us is valued, whatever the conditions of our humanity. The past week of exclusion and blame on the national level, with its subtext of hatred, has been horrendous, and for many it has been very frightening. And so I want to say this to you now from the bottom of my heart. If you are feeling frightened or anxious, if you are gay or transgender or non-binary or have people in your life who are and you worry about violence or invisibility, if your circle includes immigrants or refugees afraid to go to the door because they might be deported, if you are someone who might lose health care coverage or an important safety net or your income, I hope that we won't just welcome you and you or us. I hope we will be changed by you and by your stories as we learn how to make our community a more inclusive, safe space in every way that we can. To make that real, we who serve this congregation and belong to it must do more than raise banners or fly flags or say words of welcome, as important as all of those things are, and they are important. But we must live an ethic of inclusion in ways both great and nuanced. And we can do it because all of us here have been excluded, and all of us long to be included. And you see, I know this. Inclusion as a spiritual practice, it's not burdensome. It's not just a political correctness. It's not threatening. It's healing. It's exciting. We have to start with the strongest inclinations of human beings. You might be surprised to find out that there's actually a science of inclusion. Octavius Black, a British social behavioral scientist, has spent years studying inclusivity and then training groups around the globe in doing it. And he suggests that human beings have an innate drive to form groups like themselves. He cites a really interesting example of actor Charlton Heston, on the set of Planet of the Apes. Anybody remember that movie? Well, many actors, extras were brought in to play gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, all the species of great apes. And at lunch, on the first day of filming, all the ape actors, down to a person, sat with those portraying their own species. More surprising to me, at least, is how unconsciously we're influenced by even superficial aspects of our own identity. People give 260% more to hurricane relief if the name of the storm begins with the same letter as their own name. If you send an email survey asking someone a trivial question, what's your town mascot? Twice as many people respond if the person who signed the letter has the same first name as they do. And 6 times as many respond if both names are the same. To John Smith from John Smith. We are so glad we are that we love to think you are us too. The innate drive to create a circle is powerful. Groups result in kinship, in community, in teamwork, in friendship, all good things. But the problem is that in-groups also create out-groups. Take a few seconds and think of a time in your life when you were excluded. Think of a time when you were excluded. Maybe it's a memory from early years. For me, one of the times it happened, and I may have mentioned this before, was when a boy in 7th grade laughed at my crooked, gaping front teeth and called me Bugs Bunny in front of the whole class. With that one jab, I was cast outside the circle of acceptable-looking people. But I know now I was beautiful. Sometimes we exclude people out of the lack of knowledge or imagination because, you see, empathy means to be able to suffer with someone else, to feel their pain, but we cannot do that unless we can walk in their shoes, and when we don't, we make them into the other. We also exclude people when we let our own experience limit what we think is possible or good or desirable or normal. Nicole Herrera is a Black woman married to a biracial man of white and Hispanic background. After Nicole tried for 7 years to get pregnant, she and her spouse were thrilled, joyful, to have a daughter using an embryo donation and surrogacy. As it turned out, the child has blue eyes and blonde hair, as does another of the 3 other children who came into their lives. And sadly, the simple look of that family was more than some people could include in their definition of family. Herrera writes that people stared at them, some disgusted, some alarmed. The first time she took her blonde, blue-eyed son to the dentist, the dental assistant demanded proof that he was her child. And another day, when Herrera and her kids were out shopping, a woman approached them and said to her, "It's cute they call you mommy." People were drawing a circle of her own family from which they were excluding Nicole Herrera. And yet their family was just as beautiful, just as whole, just as precious to them and to us as any other family. And if you think people are being too sensitive, consider this. The part of our brain that responds in emotional pain to being excluded is the same part of our brain that reacts in physical pain if we're hit in the head with a hard ball. The pain of rejection and exclusion is real. Being excluded kills, writes Jan Edmondson. It kills the spirit and sometimes it kills the body. And that's why a biological or sociological matter rises to a moral and spiritual imperative that we as a people of faith care about. And here's the thing, there's hope there, because underneath so many experiences of exclusion, including the flagrant ones we see that are hateful, underneath all of those, there's an assumption that the source of what's good or beautiful or worthy or loving is scarce rather than abundant. Only so many people can be beautiful. Only so many kinds of families can be healthy. Only so many people can be normal. But it's a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. There are scarce things in the world, physical resources, but love and acceptance and gladness are not among them. If living on this earth and in this universe teaches us anything, it teaches us the abundance of what is. Not just in microbes or marine life or galaxies, but in the shape and color and identity of a human being or a family or a nation, a nation. At our best, when we can get there, we Unitarian Universalists are grounded and watered and grown in a world of abundance because I am, because you are, and because we are glad of it. Aren't we glad? So what can we do? What can we do to make our community, our environment, our world more inclusive? We can listen to each other's stories and learn. Sometimes I wonder how it might affect a congregation if we took a month off from doing the business of the church and the jobs of committees, said we're not doing them this month, and instead we sat down in small groups to listen to each other's stories. Tell me about a time you were excluded. Tell me about a time you were included. Tell me who you are. How much differently would we see each other the next time we gathered to work together? We can be curious instead of judgmental when people are different from us or from what we know. And without shaming ourselves, we can just be curious. And the other thing we can do is what Octavius Black calls pivoting, or acting quickly in the moment to bring people that are different or who might feel rejected together. I call it creating where there's destruction. When something goes wrong, we can use our wits and our hearts and our courage to practice inclusion. The example he gives is so classic, it's almost trite. A biracial Latino graduate had been taken into a company, a graduate, newly out of school, had been working for the company for a few months. And many of the managers of the company he had not yet met, but they had this big social event for graduates, and he dressed up in formal black for it, his mother's urging, and when he arrived, he walked over to join a group, And an executive vice president turned to him and said, "Yes, please, could we have a glass of wine?" Yes, he'd been taken to be a waiter. And the remark was hurtful, of course, but what it turns out was also hurtful was that no one who saw what was happening spoke up. You see, diversity is just the fact of who's present. Inclusion is an attitude, an intention, a practice, what we do with the diversity. Black counsels that someone in this situation, and it's tricky, I know, but what someone could do is quickly say to that manager, "I don't think you've yet met Jose. He worked on the McClellan proposal and he's responsible for landing our job. Now let me get us all some wine." And maybe sometimes that would be tricky. Maybe sometimes somebody wouldn't want you speaking up for them. But it seems to me just leaving that big gaping hole, just resounding in pain, isn't good either. And I've done it in situations, we have the ability in the face of exclusion to include. It might even save a painful situation from becoming a more deeply one that affects somebody's life in an organization or a community or school or hospital. Now, I will admit to you, I don't know who could have pivoted at Angela Herrera's child's dental appointment. And I certainly don't think that we can disarm people with guns ready to take immigrants into custody with clever words. But even as we face the struggles ahead, we can, my friends, we can choose every day in the lives we live, starting right here, to draw the circle wider, to live the ethic of inclusion, to live that belief that we are all worthy. Look for someone who appears not to belong today and choose them, says Jan Edmiston. There's something to being chosen that is uniquely healing. Let us have faith that if we learn, if we listen, if we tell our stories, if we hear our stories, if we persist, if we include, the beauty of the world's abundance will be known. And let it be our mantra. We are glad you are here. We are glad you are. We are glad. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing number 95, There Is More Love. That's in the gray hymnal. of our chalice lighters come forward to extinguish the flame, please? And I invite you to join with me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. All that we have ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a greater generosity of spirit, a deeper joy in this life we share. Amen. Those words also by Leslie Takahashi.